Come on up. Take a seat wherever you like. All the mics work. We've just been talking into them randomly all day.
Thank you.
So thanks for being here with me. I'll start it off. A question for both of you. How did the films come together? Can you tell me a bit about the seed of the idea and how the project came together?
For me, for Feeling the Apocalypse, the seed of the idea came from my own climate anxiety. At a time in 2021, I was working through some stuff. I was sort of doom scrolling a lot, and even now I still do that. I still think about climate change and climate news a lot, more or less every day. But at that time, it was starting to affect my sleep, and when it came time for me to do a documentary project for school, naturally I couldn't do a film about anything else other than that. But I didn't want to just do a film about me because I didn't know how to process my own anxiety. So I kind of turned to this psychotherapist, Anderson Todd, and he put in words so brilliantly in a way that I could not. And then after he had laid sort of like the groundwork for me, all I had to do was sort of find the right images to match that. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Very the same question.
I had to graduate, so I really needed to make this film. It was my thesis film. So what was the question?
Well, just kind of like where did the seed of the idea come from, and how did that production come together?
Well, it was based on a woman who raised me for the first 14 years of my life, and then when I went back to Thailand to visit her, she didn't remember who I was, or she remembered me, but then she could only call me by like my name or my mom's name, and that was like the first family member I had who had developed like a serious in a form of Alzheimer's or dementia, where like my memory was like, kind of like displaced or tossed around, but I could fully remember who she was. So it was really painful, and I just remember like looking at her and thinking like, man, like all the money in the world like can't bring her back or like buy her memory back. And so that's where it came from. And I had to graduate, so I just had to go and make the thing. So those two things, yeah.
Cool, thank you. But you both have quite different films, but what was the visual, like when you were coming up with the visual style, what was your thought process on coming through of like how to bring these stories out visually on the screen?
My idea, I think I went for animation partially to protect Anderson Todd, my interviewee, from like COVID, because like 2021 it was still kind of happening. Like the visual inspiration from it, I looked at a lot of, there's this American filmmaker who works a lot in animation, who uses animation to sort of depict internal struggles, Cinda Aga, and I really took a lot of inspiration from her work. They're very sort of like conceptual, abstract animations. So I kind of like, that's where I started from, and like a lot of like crayons and like watercolors and paints like that, and then after that I kind of went to Rowan, my artist and animator, who's here with us today actually, and I kind of was like we had a talk about like what kind of mediums he was best, what kind of mediums that he would like to work in, and then we went from there.
Great, thank you.
I remember I looked at Thai director who did a film with kids, so like after I saw that, I really wanted to make a film with a child actor, and his name was Nawapon. But I also remember watching Sean Baker's Florida Project, and I think it's less about like mimicking or like being inspired by the visual language and more of like the spirit of working with with the child as your main actor, but in terms of cinematography, I don't feel like I did anything really like extremely distinct or out of the ordinary. But I do remember just watching films with children, or like having the children be like the main subject or the protagonist, and I just remember like loving like the purity, I guess, or the joy that they bring on screen, and just taking that and then having it inform like my visual language.
Yeah. And there was a lot of that purity and joy in the film. What was it like working with your cast? I mean, it was such a lovely cast.
It was just so pure and joyful to me. It was really fun, and her name's Dee Dee. She's 7. I found her on Facebook. she's just so sweet. You just like forget how brilliant someone like, how could you possibly be 7? You know, it was so easy to work with her that I just wish it could be like that all the time. It was such a good time. It was like during COVID as well. So for me, I was just like, the fact that I'm even here shooting, and you know, every day we have to wake up and test negative. It's like 30 people on the cast and crew, and I was just so happy to just even be making the thing, you know. But she also just gave me like amazing takes all the time. I feel incredibly lucky. But I remember being very much like not stressed out, just being like, we wake up and even get to shoot, it's a miracle. But she's so easy. She memorized like 20 pages. I didn't have to do anything really. That's how I feel. I just be like, hey, remember you did that thing during audition where you took your hands and you were like, do you remember me? Like, do you remember me, Grandma? I was like, can you do that again? You know, and it's like, I didn't even really come up with it, but can you do this great directional thing that you self-directed? I don't know. It was a really great time. Like, I just see that film. It's like, oh, that was like a real miracle for it to even exist. So it was, yeah, same answer as before. It's just very pure and very joyful.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Chen Sing, what made you decide to explore climate grief specifically in your film?
I think for me, this feeling apocalypse is about more than just climate grief, even though it's sort of ostensibly like that's how I market it. But it's kind of more about like this deeper like grappling with mortality and like our collective mortality, because like often like it's easy to think of like, we all accept like our individual mortality, right? But then like if we look at civilization or like art or culture or like humanity, then we kind of like somehow we just like have the assumption that like, no, that's immortal. Like I'm mortal, but like our legacy is gonna be immortal, and also that's good. And I sort of like when you sort of dig into like the idea of like what infinite growth is, and like our these existential problems like climate change and like resource depletion, then that kind of all comes crashing down, and like that's kind of like the deeper struggle to me. Like I forgot the question.
Well, no, that's a great answer. That it is more than just about climate grief. With that, I'll kind of rephrase it with that in mind. It is kind of like this existential thing that is very hard to communicate or even grapple with yourself. Did you struggle with bringing that onto the page and onto the screen to connect with people? Like, what were you thinking while you were writing it?
Well, I didn't write it actually, but I did something like writing it, which is I took a 3-hour conversation and I sort of condensed it down to the parts that I felt were most important, and I guess that's kind of like writing. I think I was kind of like tuning it towards like I needed to strike this balance between like accessibility but then I didn't want to sort of downplay the climate crisis, because often what you see in many but not all media about climate change is that they'll tell you, hey, things are gonna be really bad, but then at the very end they say, but it's gonna be fine because like we'll figure it out. And then I didn't want to sort of do that because that felt like a lie to me. And I needed to find a way to stay true to that belief, which me and Anderson both share, that collapse is inevitable. But also we needed to like find a way to give it some hope that wasn't like a lie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to. Parita, can you talk a bit about the writing process of your film? Did you find any difficulties in it, or?
Writing. I had the idea forever, but I also feel like everything I make, I had the idea forever, and then it doesn't come out right until like I've thrown the like 5 drafts out. But that just feels like a standard to me. So, I wrote it, and then I didn't know when I could go into Thailand to film it. So I wrote like maybe like a second draft. And then I had to fly into Thailand because I was waiting for the country to open for like 4 months. I was just sitting around doing nothing, and I needed to graduate. So when I got in, I was just like, okay, well, you better hurry. And I very much felt like I'm not ready to shoot, and I normally would never ever like cast or like shoot or even plan to shoot if I didn't feel like I'm like at 110, just because like these things are so costly, and like every film I make, I'm always like, it might be the last one you ever make, so you better make it good. But anyway, so I feel like writing, the thing I remember most is just being stressed about like, I need this to be at a place where I feel confident to film it, and I'm running out of time, which is pretty unique because I felt very much like I don't have a choice. It's like now or never is kind of how I felt about it. But I was casting the same time I was writing or like revising. Was it difficulty? It's just like normal stuff, I would say, like trying to get the landing to end, or like I know there's something seriously like wrong and not put together here, but I don't know how to fix it. Just like, it sounds pretty normal, I would say, to my writing process, but I was just extremely stressed because there was just a timeline that I couldn't, like bend too much. But I remember what made me stop writing was that I had casted them and given them the script, and then I had my producer maybe give like a revised script, and then my producer told me that they asked like, please don't change it anymore. So then I was like, okay, well, I'll just stop here then. So that dictated that. I was like, I could have made more changes, but I felt so bad for them because like one of the actresses is 7 and then the other one is like 60. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. And I was like, I'll just revise it that once. I guess I'll just go with what I wrote. So that's what happened.
That's great. Were there, for both of you, were there any constraints that were kind of put on you because of the way that these films were made that you found either like challenging or helpful in the process? Whether it's constraints on length or just the, like a hard deadline?
My project was it was a school project, so we did have like a hard deadline of I think 3 to 4 months, so that we couldn't go beyond that. And then so when we first started, I think I was thinking about like hand drawn animation, and because this is my first time with an animation project, so I had no idea like how long that would take. And then like after speaking to like some people who actually knew animation, I found out how unrealistic that was. So I had to sort of like revise my plan, and like the medium in which I chose to work based on like sort of like the reality of like how much time do we have to make this, and how do we fit that in with the rest of our classes and commitments at the same time. Yeah, and like luckily Rowan, my animator and artist, like he did happen to have a lot of time on his hands, and like just no way I could have done this without him. But yeah.
Great. And yeah, anything on the constraints that you found gave you?
Same boring answer with COVID and my school, and it was good in that. Well, I don't know if I would really even like just go and do it and finish it if that constraint wasn't there. It was literally like, do you want this movie to exist or not? If so, you need to do it now. So that was like one major constraint. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just gonna repeat myself. So.
Okay. Yeah. No problem. How have you found the audience reactions to your film? Has there been any reactions or anyone talking to you about them? Have they said anything that you weren't expecting?
I guess I was for my film I was expecting more negativity, but then it's a little bit hard to gauge that.
How do you mean negative?
Sorry, was that question meant for her?
No, for both of you. For both of you, yeah.
So I wasn't. Yeah. So, but like a lot of you who have came out to me and told me that they saw like took away a positive message from my film. And I don't know. Oh wait, actually, I just.
Yeah.
So there has been a surprising thing actually. I've been surprised at the number of activists, wildlife activists, conservationists that have taken an interest in my film, and like I don't know why this wasn't obvious to me before, but because for like people who are conservationists and sort of like who are passionate about climate change, like obviously like they're sort of like seeing and viewing and feeling these same things that I'm feeling, like a lot of the time. So of course they would like they would need a lot of mental health support. So like those people, like the film festivals that are sort of about wildlife and conservation, they've responded to my film very positively, and I think that's amazing.
Great. And how about you?
A lot of people have come up to me and kind of just like randomly after screenings, like people they don't know who have come up and told me how they had like a family member have Alzheimer's or dementia and how it touched them. I guess I wasn't expecting it to resonate with so many people. I always hope it's gonna resonate with people, but I just didn't like. I don't really ever like expect it to, because I'm making things from like so deep inside my head. I have no idea like if anyone would resonate with it, because I felt like the seed of it or the heart of it was really just like me and her over a dinner table for like half an hour. And so like for me, that's literally like the only thing it's based off of, or the core of it anyway, especially the ending where like the kid, is like sort of begging to be recognized but is not recognized. Like that's probably the most painful part, and that's where it came from. So it's surprising, but always like so nice to me when people tell me that they watched it and they can relate, or they had a family member with Alzheimer's, and that it like touched them in a way, I guess. I don't really know if it helps because it's so painful to go through, and I don't really like, I don't know how it could help somebody. I don't really know, but people do tell me that that it like resonated with them or touched them or something like that. So I wasn't expecting that so much, but it has been happening. So that has been nice, I guess. Yeah. Like when they come, it's strange because they come up and they'll say like, I related to your film, but then like when I really think about it, it's such like a painful thing. So yeah, I don't know, but that has been happening.
Yeah, it's a complicated feeling to come together on something so sad. We've kind of gotten a chance to chat about a few things in your films a couple of times, but is there anything that we haven't covered? Anything you'd like to say about the films that we haven't gotten to talk about in the panel or the Q&A?
I guess for me, I like I try to be very selective about the images I displayed in my film, and I kind of sometimes I'm not sure like it's all like comes true, but like the images I selected of like people recovering after disasters, I went out of my way to sort of pick images that were like about like people bouncing back, like communities bouncing back on their own, like from their own strength, rather than like sort of like relying on like external support. Because often like you Google like disaster recovery, you're gonna see like a lot of pictures of like the UN coming in, or local governments like helping a recovery or not helping a recovery in some cases. So like, and I think I just wanted like this film to sort of like de-emphasize that reliance on like larger institutions to help us out when like we're in trouble, because I think that like if eventually as things get more extreme in the rest of the world, there's going to be less and less of that assistance to rely on, and we're gonna have to start looking at thinking about a lot more locally, looking at communities and building local communities, and sort of yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah.
I feel like I've talked enough about my film, but I do want to say thank you for including my film in your festival and having me here.
Yeah, no, we're so happy that you were both able to join us. We're so happy we got to screen your films and enjoy them with everybody here, and I'm sure they feel the same way. So yeah, thank you for coming up here and chatting with us today. Yeah, let's give them a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.